Good morning, everybody. My name is Henny Oosthuizen. I represent an organization by the name of Money for Jam. Money for Jam is a gig economy company that connects a crowd to an organization. I'm the executive responsible for mobile training technology. And in our case, we connect the organization, your training and development department, with the crowd, which is your employees, temporary, permanent employees, contract employees, independent contractors. That would be the crowd that you want to train. We're not a training company. We assist organizations to take their content and through our mobile training technology, make it available to all their staff online. Companies use their training companies' information or content to then put on the platform. Today, I want to share with you our experience that we've gained over the last 3 years on mobile training and what we've done from a system point of view, from a content point of view. Let's go. What we'll cover today is a little bit of context, the South African situation, and how it differs from the international landscape. Requirements, what typically do you need from a system perspective? Functionalities, what are the key functionalities that your platform system need? For me, a very nice model, the 4M model, about mobile training technology, and some of the challenges that you might experience and some of the advice. Right throughout our presentation, I'm going to use an organization that's been one of our clients for quite a long time. The group is called Corp, and they've got two well-known brands. The one is the Pro Shop, and the other one is CycleLab. The Pro Shop is a retail shop where you can buy golf equipment and clothing and accessories, and obviously CycleLab where you can buy cycles. But I'll use the Pro Shop as an example because it's simple, it's clear, and it will help me explain our technology. Firstly, I believe training technology in South Africa is extremely ineffective. Firstly, online learning is deployed on a laptop to white-collar staff. We do not have technology that reach all our employees. I don't know, maybe 10-15% of employees could be categorized as white-collar, head office staff. The balance, whether it is factory employees, whether it's retail assistants, whether it's somebody that works in the hospitality industry, staff that do not sit in an office with access to the necessary device that they can connect online. Low participation rates. After a number of years trying to understand mobile training, online training, e-learning in South Africa, the one thing that stands out is the extreme low participation rates within South Africa. I think it's a combination of a couple of things. Number one, people are lazy, they don't want to train. Number two, people don't have access to the technology. Number three, I think content is sent to them that is not relevant. Training interventions that does not speak to the self-interest of the employee. It's very qualification-driven or course-driven. Project management, time management. It's very qualification-driven. Very little attention to functional skills. Very little attention to training people on their service operating procedures. So, the next one, questionable retention and practical application. The forgetting curve that is well known in Ebbinghaus's forgetting curve. It's for me, it's questionable the amount of training that takes place. How much information is retained by the person going on the training? It's complicated and it's expensive. Complicated, long learning sessions, complicated registration process, complicated user interfaces. And online learning, although it's digital, the platform application that you get from online companies is expensive. In-house platforms that was developed by learning and development is extremely expensive to develop and then even more expensive to maintain. And my favorite one is that the technology was developed by technologists that do not understand adult learning. So I have to get this out the way, and a good example of that is gamification. The whole world is going gamification. So firstly, gamification and simulation is two separate things. I can't cover the simulation effect. I think most of you will know what that is. Gamification is a technologist way. They like playing games. They like being involved with games, and they develop and structure things in that way. Adults don't like to learn through games. That is the world according to any these days. There's other things that make them learn. I would say gamification is like Pokemon Go. It comes and then it's gone. I've not found any theory that supports gamification. There's a place for making it fun, making it interesting, grabbing attention through your modalities that you use. But games, I question it. The technology is complicated to navigate because the technologists are so used to a computer screen. He can navigate himself around very quickly. Typically, it's got a Santon mindset and do not understand the user that will be reached. Is an adult person going through training. Then a lot of the platforms do not understand some of the context in South Africa. Firstly, digital literacy levels. It's not literacy level, digital literacy level. The ability to download an application, the ability to register on the application, the ability to remember your password. We find that often because adults have got a fear of failure, when they struggle with the registration process, they think that online learning is complicated. And that is because there is still a low level of digital literacy. I think that with COVID, people having to work more with teams, more online applications, that will change rapidly. Cultural nuances. Americans and a lot of South African people like to refer to millennials, different groupings of people. There's typically American classifications. In South Africa, it's rural, urban, literate, illiterate, blue collar, white collar. We've got so many different ethnic groups, so many different language groups, socioeconomic conditions. Simple example is, in some training content, you'll have a little piggy bank with a gold coin going in that, and that would represent, in the States, somebody saving money. Is that what would be understood in South Africa? Is that context? A skull would represent danger. For somebody in Pretoria, it would be a pirate supporter. So there's certain cultural nuances that is not taken account, again by technologists, but specifically by technologists developing platforms or training content internationally. Then the cost of connection, access to data, Wi-Fi, laptops, tablets, even as simple as an email address. So those are some of the challenges that we've got in South Africa, I believe drive very ineffective online learning. But the main one is that the platforms is developed by technologists and available to white-collar employees only. Let's look at key system design requirements. Firstly, smartphone application is critical. I would say, this is just my own stat, I would say 20% of people in South Africa has got access to a laptop, desktop, or tablet. Yet 98%, we have got personally, we've got 50,000 students or learners active on our platform every day. And our stat is that 98% of people have got access to a smartphone, and most of it, 99% of that's Android. Very few work on iOS. So that's the first thing. If you want to go mobile, if you want to go online, it's got to be a smartphone application. Not a web-based application that was designed for a tablet that you can access on a smartphone. Because the one screen is like this and the other screen is like that. The navigation on a tablet or a laptop is different than the navigation on a smartphone. So for me, that is your first design requirement. The second one, user-friendly interface. So there's two portions to your platform. The one is the user, the learner, what he views, and then your LMS, your learner management system, that is what the administrator will view. For me, the user interface is your digital classroom. Your LMS is a very big Excel spreadsheet where you coordinate, get information, structure. That's your LMS. So when you navigate intuitively, the user cannot have a busy screen. That's the first thing. We've worked with a philosophy of 3. You will not see more than 3 things on your opening page, your landing page. Then you must have 3 clicks to be at the lesson or the task that you complete. Click to register, click on your lesson, click start. That's it. It cannot be more than 3 clicks. The screen cannot have more than 3-4 items. Why? Because then the application becomes very expensive, complicated. Go search some of the websites. Use any of the banks. They love to complicate everything. And then go and look at it on a smartphone and try and see how it navigates. So a lot of organizations now have got the mobile application. That's more mobile friendly. So user interface critical. LMS, if you've got a complicated LMS platform, you need more administrators and at a senior level to take content, load it on the platform, take the information, the reports, dashboards, and generate that. LMS drives efficiency. You should be able to drive your LMS through a normal training administrator, I would say Patterson level B1, B2, B3. That level of person in your organization should be able to run your LMS very easily. Then white label platforms are way more effective for the learner to connect to the content. What do I mean with that? In your organization, your corporate identity is important to you and is important to your employees. They associate with your brand, whether it's Absa, BMW, Nike, whatever that brand is. So you want your interface to be in your own corporate identity. So from a design capability, the platform should be able to carry your brand as the interface so that the employee feels that they're working on your own platform. Then CETA compliant. we really struggle to understand what the difference is between getting the platform accredited, getting the platform approved. And ultimately, we realized that you cannot accredit the platform. The platform has got to be compliant with the quality assurance processes that the CETA require. So if you do accredited training or learnerships that you run through your platform, the platform must have all the functionalities to comply with that. And then the integration of your platform. When I was younger, CRM systems came out, big ones like SAP, and the movement was to take all systems in the organization, integrate them so that you don't have disparate systems. When it comes to training, it's more like Uber and Uber Eats. Your system could be integrated at the back to SAP or whatever CRM system you've got, but the front end must be separate. So why Uber and Uber Eats? Because on the one you drive and on the other one you eat. That's as simple as that. When your training system sits in your CRM system, I have to go into the CRM system, I have to go into the HR module, I have to go into the training and development section, I have to go into training, long lost. It's an app that you click on, 3 clicks and you add your content. If you get a system that is supplied to you by external supplier and you do need to integrate, which in most cases you do not need to integrate, it complicates everything. But if you need to integrate, the ability to write the API to integrate should be available. Okay, let's talk about key functionalities. So I'm an industrial psychologist by trade, and that's why I say our platform or the functionalities that I support are not designed by a technician. It was designed by somebody that understands human behavior, understand adult learning. The following key concepts you have to have as a functionality. Now, the first one is the ability to incentivize learning. Incentivized learning can be financial or non-financial. Financial incentives work the best. Why? Why do you need incentives? Incentives activate learner participation. So, in the case of Moko ProShop, they have got their whole company on the platform that is divided into management, then into softline, hardline. Softline is clothing, hardline is all the products. And then they've got subgroups like the health and safety group. So an individual can sit in health and safety, but he works as an assistant in the hardline in the Pretoria Linwood branch and is part of ProShop. So when you want to get your retail assistant to complete certain training tasks, you have to take him off the floor. That's not possible. It's too disruptive to the business. Now you say to the retail assistant, I'm going to put your training content on your mobile device. You're going to complete your training tonight. Retail assistants say, why would I use my own time? I say, well, I'll pay you. So whether I pay the individual 5 Rand, 10 Rand, 15 Rand per micro lesson that they complete, the completion rate in ProShop is above 95%. Why? For that group of learners, they complete their lessons, they convert the cash into data, and they've got data to then play their games. Why typical training companies go with gamification is the absence of an e-commerce or wallet functionality. When you build in a wallet functionality, then it becomes extremely complicated because now money or data or airtime needs to flow. So I would strongly recommend that you have to have a platform that's got the ability to incentivize learners. Even it's with a token that say once you completed X amount of tokens, you qualify for X. There are organizations that goes non-financial. That could be if you complete all your training, you qualify for a certificate. If you complete all your training, you qualify for promotion. You qualify for half a day's leave. Or in some cases, if you don't complete the training, you get dismissed. There has to be consequence or incentive that drive learner participation. All the HR people out there that say people are intrinsically motivated to train, if that was the case, all of us would have been at Virgin this morning and did our physical training, because we all know how important it is, yet only 5% of people attending this webinar would have been at Virgin Gym this morning. People need to be activated because there's consequence. So that's my first very important factor. The system must have the capability to incentivize, not games, not apple and pears. What is the incentive of gaining apple and pears? It is about what is the financial reward or non-financial reward. Second one, spaced learning. So I spoke about the forgetting curve. I've been on so many training courses and never ever has any of the content that I went through been reinforced until embedded knowledge took place. At school and at university, we did revision. That is spaced learning. You revise and revise and revise content, and then your final assessment takes place, or multiple assessments, and then your final assessment to determine that embedded knowledge has taken place. Platforms that cannot space, in other words, you do a lesson now, 3 days later, 6 days later, 3 weeks, 3 months, whatever you decide the spacing should be. The platform cannot facilitate that in an automated fashion. That becomes then extremely difficult for embedded knowledge to take place. Within the pro shop, within the hard line, you've got tricks and balls, Titleist. There is so many different golf balls. Then golf clubs, Titleist, Cobra, lots of different golf clubs. These balls and these golf clubs continuously change. The retail assistant need to be trained on the specific ball, because a customer would walk in and say, I'm looking for a golf ball that's not too expensive. My swing speed is 60 miles an hour. What ball would you recommend? So the retail assistant need to understand what ball he would recommend, because he understands the specifications. But with that amount of technical products in the store, the information needs to be reinforced multiple times until embedded knowledge has taken place. How do we know that embedded knowledge has taken place? You do a pre-assessment and ask certain questions on the new selection ball. You would do the training lesson, and then you do a post-assessment. Post-assessment is not important. That just indicates how quickly a person can learn and how much of the information he can recall immediately. What is important is, once you've spaced it 3 days later, you do a pre-assessment again. Now you compare pre-assessment 1 with pre-assessment 2 to then determine how much of the information was retained. Then you compare pre-assessment 2 with pre-assessment 3 that was done 3 weeks or 4 weeks later to determine. Once the pre-assessment score is achieved over and over, embedded knowledge has taken place. Now the individual knows the selection golf ball, knows the Titleist golf ball, will be able to recall the information. Let's now go over to kinesthetic or practical application. That does not mean when the customer comes to the retail assistant that the retail assistant would be able to sell the selection ball because he can now recall the information. How will you know that the individual can do it? You would now say that role play needs to take place in the store. Somebody will take a cell phone video of the person selling the Strixon ball and will upload that information. Now there's practical evidence. There's portfolio of evidence content to indicate that the person knows the product, can recall the information, and in the sales process that he was trained on previously, can utilize this to discuss the attributes, benefits of the specific product. So, spaced learning to embed knowledge, so individual can recall. Kinesthetic or practical application is display the competence, but your system must be able to upload the information so that it can be assessed by subject matter experts to see if competence has taken place. Now, the library functionality. All this content has got to go somewhere. You can't print it in booklets and hand out handbooks and so on. Your platform must have the ability to house all content in your library. If content, the Strixon ball, is now discontinued, the content must be able to be removed out of the library in an automated fashion. So, your library as a digital library should have easy search functionality. I go into the library, I click search, I say Strixon golf ball, it will bring that up. Library, one click, search, one click, content. So that's the importance of the library. Help desk. Very, very few online platforms has got a help desk functionality. The help desk is not so much to assist the learner with the lesson or the content. It's to assist the learner with the registration process, with the login process, with the navigation on the platform, because the South African digital literacy level is not high. It has to be real people. It can be WhatsApp, it can be Facebook Messenger, it could be all the different communication channels, but you have to have live chat. Learners like to phone somebody and say, I am struggling. Older learners. Younger learners, very comfortable. Even the older learners, once they've communicated verbally once, their second questions, reset my password, will be done through WhatsApp. So you have to have a help desk functionality to take the fear of engaging with the platform away. Once the learner is in the content, it comes naturally. Why? Because your user interface will be intuitive and take the person to the right place. Let's look at the 4M model. Number 1, micro, then mobile, then measurable, then meaningful. Micro. The lessons must be micro, bite-sized chunks of learning. It must be 3 to 10 minutes, not longer. From where the person logs in, completes the lesson, 3 to 10 minutes. Why? The retention of information is significantly higher. The individual, the learner, do not have to go into the system, continue halfway through, then save and come back later. Rewind, see where they can remember last, and then continue. Our society is driven by YouTube, TikTok. It is social learning driven. Social learning is all 1 minute to 3 minute video clips, photos, fact sheets, posters. It's driven by micro learning. So in the workplace, we cannot lose touch with the way that society just naturally trains. The complexity for organizations is now to take the training material, which in most cases is so outdated, you can just as well do it over, to take the content and then divide it into a lesson plan, then break it up into micro modules, then produce relevant content for each micro module, and then present this whole lesson over a period of time. Each lesson then will be spaced depending on the complexity of the lesson that you're delivering. So that's micro. Mobile, we've discussed this. The ability to access it through a mobile device is critical. Memorable. Content is only measurable if you can draw reports of the participation at any given time without massive manual intervention. It's the ability to track participation rates. Often, training professionals say to me, Henny, do you have algorithms that predict if a person do well in lesson 1, they'll do well in lesson 2, or if they do get question 3 right, let them go to question 8. And then I say to them, what's the participation rate of your staff at the moment with the training? And they can't tell me that. Don't go to algorithms if you can't track real time what your participation rate is, what the retention level of each individual is. The basic measurements is critical. Your dashboards. What dashboard is supplied to the training and development, to the line manager, to senior management, to the CEO? Those dashboards will differ, but they must all be automated so that you've got access to information very quickly. What gets measured gets done. The last one is meaningful. So I want to use meaningful in the context of ProShop again. So this little retail assistant, that's also the representative for health and safety in the store, belongs to the Pretoria store, is part of ProShop, is part of Morecorp. You do not send all training content to all staff. Each of these groups represent unique user groups. They've got unique needs. If training content do not speak to this individual specific needs, the self-interest disappear and participation rates reduce. It's almost like your own personal WhatsApp groups. You've got fathers and sons, the family WhatsApp group, and you only post things on the family WhatsApp group that's relevant to the family. Meaningfulness is driven by relevance and the right timing of the content that has got specific self-interest to that person. So if somebody works in the hardline, you're not going to send them the softline content. You're going to send them the friction ball information. If he's part of health and safety, he will get the health and safety committee meeting notes, not the rest. It is critical to have your user groups set up properly. Even in your communication in your organization, communication fails because too much information is sent to everybody, and then people just get so information fatigue or training fatigue that they don't participate. If you want to know why your participation rates is low, go and look at incentivized learning, and then go and look at the meaningfulness of your training. I want to talk to you a little bit about I would say the 4 key challenges that you faced with online training or mobile training. The first one is the speed to audience. If your system is automated to deliver relevant content to the specific business units in real time, nationally, to every user that needs to get that content, you've got a problem. Your system should be designed that if you want to take content today and you load it on your application LMS, it should be available to everybody at the same time. That's just one part of the problem. So this retail assistant started on the 30th of June, and he's got a lesson plan. The lesson plan will say on day 1 he'll do this, all the induction material. Day 2, he'll start with the product training. Day 6, he'll start with service operating procedures, and so his learning path is worked out for him. 2 weeks later, somebody resigns as a retail assistant in the hardline. This person cannot fall into this person's training cycle. He's got to be able to start in his own training cycle. So day 1, this individual is on day 14, this individual is on day 1. It activates the learning path here. But both of these retail assistants that work in hardline will get the Christmas special on Strixon golf balls on the 23rd of November, because the special starts on 1st December. Why on the 23rd? You can't launch it too early, because then Golfers World will copy you. If you wait too long, the staff aren't trained on the special and they don't sell it properly. Now you've got your learning path coming here, but the ability to push information at a specific point in time to everybody that's relevant in that in the organization is then important. So you've got your learning path like that and the ability to push information in like that. So that's speed to audience. Secondly, scalable. So we all know that technology defies geographical boundaries. Your platform must be able to handle high volume transactions. So the amount of data, your technology must be able to manage that. You should be able to reach a dispersed workforce. So one of our clients, SRSA, they do Dunlop tires, have got staff in the factory. So that's a user group. They've got staff in sales. In sales, they've got their own sales staff, and then they've got franchises. In a franchise, there's a counter hand that does the sales for the Dunlop tire, but they don't work for SRSA. Then they've got staff right throughout South Africa, then in 48 African countries. The technology must be able to scale so that you can reach anybody, whether they're an employee of yours or not, whether they're office-based, whether they're home-based, whether they're independent or whether they're permanently employed, irrespective of the volumes. And that is when you engage with mobile training or online training companies, don't go the per user cost. If you've got 20,000 employees and you go per user cost, it's simply too expensive. Another reason why companies only go with white collar employees. The top 20, top 40, top 60 people have got access to the platform, the rest of the organization not. Rather go with a license fee where you cover all your user groups. It will be way more cost effective. When you've got a smaller organization, it might be better to go with an individual license fee per person. Your technology must be able to scale significantly. Then content format. So content format, we did a webinar on that previously, and it is a topic that I can talk about a lot. But your system must be able to handle all material types: videos, voice, script, fact sheets, PowerPoint, etc. The challenge is the amount of content that you historically have got. To take that content and to digitize it can be extremely expensive if you want to produce these pieces of artwork. Content must be fit for purpose. Always advise our clients, get content that's good enough. In ProShop, they've got a dress code. You don't need to do a very complicated training session. You take a photo with a cell phone of a person that's dressed correct and a photo of a person that's dressed incorrect. You post and you say, this is right and this is wrong. It's good enough. You ask 1 or 2 assessment questions to see whether inside or the information has been embedded. Simple. You want to train company values, then companies get in this camera crew and they do music. If you want to do company values, get your CEO to record himself on a cell phone where he explains the company values, what they are and what it means to him. And you should be able to post it. That is content that is good enough. One of the challenges with content is that you can't take a whole book and put it on your platform. You've got to take the content and strip out everything that's not essential for the learner to know. Then to take that content and script it into micro bite size. Then to take each of those micro sessions and decide, am I going to represent this with a video, with a fact sheet? So you've got to put some thinking in how your content format. Then the last one is dashboards. Just want to stop, explain a little bit more in detail about the dashboards for different individuals in the organizations. Your CEO wants to see a circle and he wants to see it's green. It means everybody is participating in the training and they're completing everything. You don't want to give him more information than that. The operations director wants that graph per operating division. The supervisor wants it per team leader and the team leader wants it per individual. The dashboard must be a live dashboard, must be available to everybody at any given time with only relevant information to them. Manage participation rates. If you see that a specific division has got low participation rates, you can go and audit that division. There's lots of other problems. Training participation is the biggest indicator that there's a problem elsewhere in your organization. If participation rates are low on specific lessons or tasks, practical tasks that you put out, you most probably didn't produce the right content in the right format, wasn't presented right. You might look at your assessment questions, the assessment type might be wrong. So the dashboard is not only to inform management, to manage participation, understanding of knowledge and insights taking place, but it's also for the training and development division to interrogate the data, to understand was the production of the information, of the training content properly. Anyhow, guys, that's all of this from me today. You can contact me at HO, Henny Oosthuizen, ho@m4jam.com. There's my telephone number. You will automatically receive this link if you want to review or get my contact details. If you want more information, phone me, send me an email. We can set up a Teams meeting and I can discuss or debate or differ about some of my strong views with you. Thank you very much for your time.